This is Subject to Approval, where we dive into the chaos, challenges and curveballs of today's business and agency world. No jargon, no waffle, just fast, fearless conversations about what's breaking and what's working in your business today. Good morning. Welcome to Subject to Approval, the Artemis podcast. I'm Stephen McGuinness, and for the next 10-15 minutes, I want to talk to you about one of the biggest challenges that we see inside agencies. It's the move from talent to leadership. So this is when a strategist, a designer, a specialist, a content producer move from being a creator to being a leader. Now, this could be a move up to leading a team of designers or strategists, moving to a leadership role in their specialization, or taking on an overall leadership role within the agency. So what's the problem? Well, you see a talented, hardworking team player. They deliver results, they shine, they get on great with everybody, the clients love them. So of course, we promote them. But here's the catch. By being brilliant at delivering your own work doesn't automatically give you the skills, the experience, the view, the mindset required to lead a team. And that's not to say these individuals can't do an amazing job of it, but they need to have those tools, that expertise, and that learning to make that transition successfully. And it's without understanding that gap is where so many individuals get caught out. So this topic really resonates with me personally. I moved from being a strategist to being a managing director, and I knew everything. I was totally sure of myself in this move. Now, I think it's fair to say I was a really strong strategist, but I was a terrible managing director. I simply didn't know the things I didn't know. I thought hard work, being smart, and just sheer force of personality that had got me that far was all I needed to run a whole agency. Now, I got better eventually, but it was difficult, not just for me, but for the team, and I'd say for the agency overall. And you might think to yourself, yeah, that kind of makes sense, Steve. You do seem a tad overconfident. And that's the kind of thing that would happen to somebody like you. But I think to balance it out, my wife, who's a much more considered, much more thoughtful, empathetic, and grounded person than me, when she moved from being a designer to being a general manager, she had a really tough time. She's now an amazing design teacher, by the way. So I think we can all agree when a creative or a strategist steps up into a leadership role, the game changes. Up until that point, success has meant what I can deliver. Then they make that transition and they're expected to handle a whole set of new responsibilities that they may have never seen before or have been invisibly going on behind the curtain of management. So we're talking about tracking budgets, allocating resource. We're talking about handling appraisals, reviews, maybe even inputting or being directly responsible for pay rises. We're looking at leading client meetings, dealing with escalations. Client meetings aren't just look at this amazing work anymore. Now they're dealing with problems and challenges and issues and negative feedback and crises to manage. They may even be dealing with disciplinary issues when things go wrong. Now these are big responsibilities and they're new responsibilities. And without support, this leap into the leadership role can feel overwhelming. And as a new leader, their team and even the clients can feel the impact of this. So that's the challenge. That is a widespread challenge. And I think everybody that's made that transition has gone through that to a lesser or, in my case, greater degree. So what do we need to make that leap successfully? Okay, there's 2 or 3 key areas. And the first one is about mindset. And this isn't about I think I can, although that is important. It's about shifting the mindset from being an individual contributor, where your focus is I do great work, to being a leader and shifting that focus onto I enable people to do great work. It's expanding your conceptual universe. It's not just enough to be the smartest, most talented person in the room, or the one person that amazingly cracks the brief single-handedly with a big idea or amazing design. It becomes about creating the environment, the clarity, the support, the process, the structure, the guardrails, the incentives, the disincentives, and the energy that will ensure your whole team can succeed. The leader is no longer an individual contributor. The leader becomes a multiplier. And this is a difficult transition that a lot of people have trouble making. The value is no longer measured in what you can personally deliver. How many good ideas, how many great designs, how much positive client feedback can you deliver? It becomes about how you lift that performance of everyone around them. And until that shift clicks in people's minds, it's very hard for that leader, that new leader, to step up, and impossible for the agency to benefit from the exponential growth that this should deliver. So of course, mindset is only one side of it, incredibly important what side, but one side of this. The other side is the practical skills, functional understanding, and expertise that the new leader needs to learn fast. And it's one of these situations where you don't know until you go, oh, I did not know this thing existed and I don't know how to do it. So whilst we can't deliver those answers in 10 minutes, we can at least highlight what some of those areas are. So we're talking about resource planning, we're talking about resource tracking, we're talking about scope creep tracking, we're talking about over delivery, under delivery, we're talking about use of hours, we're talking about use of retainer time, we're talking about knowing what everybody should be doing, when they're doing it, and making sure nobody is drowning in work while other people are sitting there with nothing to do, or you're throwing too much resource on one project, not enough on the other. It's complicated. It's spinning plates. Then, of course, the impact onto that into people management, running reviews, giving recognition, handling those tough conversations that none of us want to handle, about keeping the team motivated, keeping the team aligned, keeping them incentivized and supported. And that is a whole world on its own. We then have budgets. We've got P&Ls, we've got financial tracking, we've got all the things that you need to know that you thought only the finance director needed to know about. Where's the money going? Where did the money come from? What's the monthly flow? What's not to the point of like EBITDA, but what do we have to play with and what do we have going out? Because you don't need to run out of money very often to no longer be an agency. You need to think about not just in terms of resource tracking, but also in terms of profitability, which is concept in itself, and a whole session around optimizing profitability that can be held, because ain't what you make, it's what you keep. We also need to talk about client leadership. It's no longer enough just to be in the room presenting ideas. You now need to have those difficult conversations. You need to pull out information. You need to manage expectations. You need to make sure you're adding that extra value above and beyond the basics of the brief. And on the subject of value adds, you need to prove the impact. It means you need to be tracking results. It means you need to report clearly, be constantly finding ways of doing more for the client and unearthing problems before they happen and making sure that is tracked and reported correctly. There's a lot to do. And as I say, a lot of things going on that when you're on the talent side of the table, you're not even aware is happening. And these skills, they're just not obvious until you step into that role, which is sometimes you don't realize you don't know it or can't do it until it's too late. And this is why preparation is vital to these transitions. So obviously in 10 minutes, we're just skimming the surface, but hopefully you recognize these challenges and you understand the need for a solution. How do we enable people and ensure success as people make that leap from talent to team leader? Now, here is one key point. This transition happens a lot, but let's not confuse frequency with ease. Just because it happens a lot doesn't mean it's not really, really difficult. So yes, this transition happens often, but it often goes horribly wrong. Too many creatives, strategists are promoted without the tools they need and the support they need. And the result, there's stress, there's frustration, there's missed opportunities for them, for their team, and for the agency overall. So you know the challenge, you know what needs to be done. So, hey, you knew this was coming. Guess what? Artemis have built a one-day training course from talent to team leader, specifically designed for agency creatives and specialists stepping into leadership. In one day, we give them the mindset, the confidence, and the toolkits to make that transition. We fundamentally believe that agencies don't just need brilliant individuals, they need capable, confident leaders who can multiply talent and enthusiasm and passion across the agency and their teams. So if you need this, you've got rising stars in the agency ready to make their next step, get in touch with us. We'll have a call, we'll arrange a conversation about what we can do to help you with your needs. And let's make sure that your team members don't just step up, but they step forward with clarity and confidence. So, thanks for listening. I'm Stephen McGuinness. That was the Artemis podcast, subject to approval on the talent to leadership question. And I really hope to hear from you about that, and we can do something amazing together. Work can be tough, but you don't have to figure it out alone. We're here to help for coaching, workshops, or just a smart second opinion. Let's talk. Contact hello@artemisapac.com. We're Artemis, and we get it.